British troops look at a tank that rises 3.5 meters high like a giraffe. Inside, two people are lying face down and trying not to vomit. Designer Ernest Tapp spent 6 years creating a machine that could fire from behind walls and bushes while remaining invisible. Instead, he received 5 tons of iron, which caused the crew to suffer from seasickness on land. But the main test is yet to come. To understand where this idea came from, you need to go back 25 years. World War I, Western Front, a positional slaughterhouse where machine gunners lived exactly until the moment they stuck their heads out above cover. You are in a trench 2 meters deep. There is a machine gun in front of you, and ahead is a no man's land. You only see things at eye level or below. Everything is behind the walls of the trenches, behind the fences, behind the ruins. Dark spot. To check if the enemy is approaching, you need to get up. And this is exactly what the German snipers are waiting for. The machine gunners died in the hundreds precisely at the moment of rising above the cover. The Germans posted riflemen who spent hours watching for movement above the British trenches. He stuck his head out for 3 seconds, bullet in the forehead. These losses were repeated again and again, and the people who went through that war had one thought stuck in their heads: there must be a way to shoot over obstacles without exposing oneself to enemy fire. This idea did not go away even after the war. Tapp returned home and co-founded County Commercial Cars, a commercial vehicle manufacturer. Business was going well, but memories of the war haunted him, especially the fact that more often than not, it was the attack that killed him, but the need to emerge from cover. For years, he'd been pondering how to give a soldier the ability to fire while remaining protected. How to raise a weapon over an obstacle without raising the shooter. By the mid-30s, the concept had finally taken shape. The war in Europe had not yet begun, but everyone understood that it was a matter of time. Hitler openly spat on the Treaty of Versailles, and the British Army was feverishly modernizing. In July 1937, Tapp filed a patent for the idea. The essence of the invention sounded simple and revolutionary. The low-profile tracked vehicle hides behind any obstacle: walls, fences, bushes, even tall grass. When lowered, the car blends into the terrain, and then the magic happens. The hydraulic mechanism lifts the long section upwards. The shooter gets visibility and the ability to fire. The enemy sees only a tiny target the size of a human head, while the rest of the vehicle remains low and hidden. Once the task is completed, the section lowers and the vehicle leaves unnoticed. On paper, it looked brilliant. The concept offered enormous tactical advantages. The vehicle sneaks up on enemy positions using folds in the terrain. He quickly rises, fires a burst, and disappears. The enemy machine gunners simply don't have time to react, and most importantly, the crew is safe. This decision could have saved the lives of hundreds of machine gunners. Tapp was more than just a dreamer. He was an engineer and the owner of a car manufacturing company. He had an understanding of mechanics, access to production, and his own money. A government in peacetime would hardly have financed such an experimental development. This means you need to act independently. Development of the detailed design has begun. What hydraulics to use, how to ensure stability when the compartment is raised, where to accommodate the crew. Every element required careful thought, and with each calculation it became clear that the car would turn out to be very strange. By the end of the 30s, Germany captured Austria, then Czechoslovakia. War was in the air. The British Army was urgently preparing for conflict. A window of opportunity has opened for revolutionary weapons. If Tapp creates a working prototype, it has a chance to win a military contract, a chance to realize a 20-year-old dream, a chance to save the lives of machine gunners. The decision has been made. Tapp is investing his own funds in the construction of the first prototype. The risk is enormous. If the military refuses, the money is wasted, but he believed in the idea and began work on a vehicle that would go down in history as one of the strangest tanks of World War II. The first prototype was based on a separate experimental tracked chassis, lightweight platform with thin tracks and 4 road wheels. Simple, compact, testable on the go. No frills, just the bare minimum. The purpose of the first prototype is to prove the technical feasibility of the idea. The main element, a hydraulic lifting mechanism, was installed on the chassis. The technology was clear, but the question remained. Calculations showed that the system would be able to withstand the weight of the structure and weapons while maintaining stability. We designed the frame and installed the cylinders. The most difficult problem remained to be solved: where to place the person. The logic was ironclad. The vehicle must be as low as possible when lowered to allow it to hide behind any cover. If you seat the operator, the silhouette will become too high. The only option is the lying position. Tap decided to go all the way. The operator must lie face down, directly in the lifting section. A man on his stomach in a metal box that rises several meters into the air together with a weapon unit. Try right now to lie face down and raise your head to look forward. Wait a minute. My neck is getting stiff. 5 minutes really hurts. Now add in the control of a tracked vehicle, observation of the battlefield, and shooting. An ergonomic nightmare built into the very foundation. A periscope was installed for observation. Lying on his stomach, the operator looked through the periscope while simultaneously controlling the machine. The levers and pedals were located under his body. The weapon was mounted in a small cylindrical cap on top. It was just a weapons bay, not a fully fledged manned turret. It all seemed reasonable on the drawings. Understanding the problem of firing from a rocking platform, Tap attempted to address the issue of fire stability constructively, so that aiming would not become a roulette wheel due to vibrations and jerks. On paper it looked well thought out. At the testing ground it turned out that paper doesn't rule here. The assembly took several months. County Commercial Cars used its facilities to manufacture components based on Tap's designs. Chassis, hydraulic cylinders, lifting mechanism, gun helmet. The prototype was ready for testing. When the car was rolled out onto the site and the hydraulics were turned on for the first time, everyone realized that the name had been chosen perfectly. When lowered, the prototype looked squat and nondescript, but as soon as the rise was launched, the transformation began. The section slowly stretched upward. The weapons unit rose above the chassis, turning the vehicle into a mechanical insect. The tank, when raised, looked exactly like a Preying Mantis. An iron body on tracks, frozen with a raised gun helmet. The similarity was so obvious that no other name options were even discussed. The car became a Preying Mantis. The first tests have begun. Tap himself lay down in the prototype and checked all the systems. The hydraulics worked smoothly, without jerking. The chassis handled the load. The car drove, turned, and could move even with the section raised. Technically, the concept has been proven. It's not a fantasy, it works. There were problems, of course. Controlling while prone turned out to be hellishly difficult. It is difficult to control the levers and pedals at the same time. The view through the periscope was limited. The body position is excruciating even for a short test. But the key point was proven. The machine can be built, it moves, it rises, and it can fire. It's time to show the military. Shortly after the outbreak of World War II, Tap organized a demonstration for the military department. It was a nervous time. Britain was looking for any ideas that could give an advantage, at least in theory, at least at a level. Let's just take a look. Any new designs were taken seriously. Officers arrived at the training ground. Tap showed the Mantis in action. The vehicle approached the obstacle, smoothly raised the section to its maximum height, simulated firing, lowered itself, and went behind cover. The concept was clear immediately. The question of practicality remained. The officers asked technical questions, examined the design, and demanded repeated demonstrations from different angles. Tap explained the tactical advantages. Minimal silhouette below, the ability to fire from above without exposing the body, a smaller visible target for return fire. The military listened, took notes, nodded, and then asked to test the controls themselves. And here a disaster happened. The first officer who got into the car after 5 minutes of trying to control it climbed back out with a red face and shortness of breath. The second one lasted a little longer, but the result was the same. The third one couldn't even get the hang of the controls while lying down. The problem became obvious to everyone. One person is physically unable to handle the entire volume of tasks at the same time. Lying on your stomach, you have to drive the vehicle over uneven terrain, control the lift and lowering, monitor the situation through the periscope, aim and shoot. 5 critical functions. In parallel, in a situation which in itself is already a punishment. Physiology finished off the last of my working capacity. In the face-down position, blood rushes to the head, pressure increases, and dizziness begins. The neck is constantly strained from the need to keep the head raised to look through the periscope. Hands quickly get tired from the unnatural angle of operation of the controls. The shaking of the car while driving makes this whole nightmare even worse. The subjects were selected with numb limbs and complaints of nausea. The military conducted a series of tests with a variety of people, from newbies to experienced mechanics. The result did not change. After 10 to 15 minutes, the person lost the ability to effectively operate the car. In real combat, this meant complete unsuitability. The military department's verdict was harsh and unequivocal. Single-seat configuration is not acceptable. One person cannot properly control a praying mantis. The project was rejected. But TAP did not give up. Military officials proposed a compromise. Build a two-seater version. One person drives the car, the other one fires. Divide the responsibilities between two crew members. If TAP can implement this, the project will receive support. For the inventor, this was a chance to save his ideas. Yes, the first prototype failed. Yes, we had to admit to a mistake in assessing human capabilities, but the concept remained alive. The military didn't just brush off the strange vehicle, they saw a grain of truth in it and were ready to give it a second chance. TAP agreed immediately. He understood that this was his last chance to realize his 20-year-old dream. It was necessary to create a completely new prototype, larger, with space for two people and a well-thought-out distribution of functions. And for this, another base was required. The first prototype on a Carden-Lloyd chassis was too small and primitive to accommodate two crew members with all the necessary equipment. What was needed was a proven platform with a reliable engine, a proven chassis, and sufficient space for modifications. And such a platform existed. The Universal Carrier was a legend in the British Army. Since 1934, this car has been produced in Great Britain, Canada, and Australia. More than 110,000 pieces, the most mass-produced armored vehicle in history. Simple, reliable, universal. That's where the name comes from. The perfect basis for a crazy experiment. The Universal Carrier was used everywhere, as an infantry transporter, machine gun carrier, artillery tractor, reconnaissance platform, and casualty evacuator. From North Africa to the Pacific Ocean, from the snows of Russia to the jungles of Burma, the machine has proven its reliability in all conditions. TAP chose it as a base for the second Mantis. The benefits were obvious. The proven 85 horsepower Ford V8 engine is sufficient for hauling the larger structure. Reliable undercarriage of the track steering system. There is enough space to accommodate hydraulics, two crew members and weapons. Everything you need to bring your improved concept to life. Work on the second prototype has begun. It was 1941. The war was in full swing, but TAP was given permission to continue development. The military department did not provide official funding, but did not interfere either. The inventor now has a second chance to prove the viability of his idea. The design took time. The layout had to be completely rethought. Now the rising section had to accommodate two people, a driver and a gunner. Both are still lying face down because that's the only way to keep a low silhouette. But now everyone was responsible only for their own functions. The driver concentrated exclusively on controlling the machine and the lifting hydraulics. The shooter was engaged in observation, aiming and firing. The division of responsibilities was supposed to solve the main problem of the first prototype. At least that's what was planned. The design turned out to be complex. Lower body with engine and chassis from Universal Carrier. On it was a long metal box called the control chamber, where two crew members were positioned lying down. Above the camera was a section called the head, which could rotate independently for precise aiming. And at the very top there is a helmet with two Bren machine guns. The weapons chosen were standard for the British Army. Two Bren machine guns of 7.7mm caliber, a reliable, proven weapon that was used everywhere, magazine-fed, sufficient rate of fire, good accuracy. It is quite suitable for the role of a mobile firing point. The hydraulic system allowed the entire structure, control camera, head and helmet to be raised to an angle of up to 55 degrees. The maximum lifting height was 3 meters 48 centimeters. This is 11.5 feet, enough to shoot over most walls, fences and debris. When lowered, the machine was lower than a human's height. The assembly of the second prototype took 2 years. The war required all resources. The production capacities were working on military orders. Materials were in short supply, but by 1943 the machine was ready. The second Mantis, weighing 5 tons, was waiting in the wings. TAP looked at the result of many years of work. The car turned out to be even stranger than the first prototype, a long metal box on tracks that could stretch upwards like a giraffe's neck. The resemblance to an insect became even more obvious. It remained to be seen whether the two-seater layout had solved the fatal problem of the first version. 1943. Landfill in the UK. The second Mantis is ready for testing. TAP hoped that the two-seater layout solved the fatal problem of the first prototype. Tests showed the opposite. The first tests started off promisingly. The car drove, the hydraulics worked smoothly. The lifting mechanism raised the control chamber 3.5 meters without any problems. The driver directed the traffic, the shooter fired. The division of labor seemed to be working, but it was only the beginning. Military testers conducted a series of short tests on level terrain. The car drove up to the obstacle, rose, simulated shooting, and lowered itself. The concept worked technically. Small target above cover. The crew is protected below. Then tests began on rough terrain. When the vehicle was driven over uneven ground with the deck raised, the control chamber began to sway from side to side. The hydraulic system was not designed to compensate for lateral loads from shaking. A long metal box, at a height of 3 meters, swung like a pendulum, and at the base lay two people, shaking like a pear on a branch. TAP tried to find a solution, strengthen the hydraulics for stabilization, change the mounting point, add shock absorbers. The military gave time for improvements, but you can't fool physics. The long lever will swing when driving over uneven surfaces. The tests continued for months. Different routes, speeds, crews. We tried to move only in a lowered position, raising the camera at stops. But what's the point then? The tank was designed for firing on the move from behind cover, and not for stopping before each shot. Besides seasickness, other problems emerged. Management remained difficult. The view through the periscopes is lousy. Symbolic armor. The thin metal protected against bullets but not against shrapnel. The vehicle's vulnerability in combat was obvious. The military conducted a tactical analysis. Even without motion sickness, the combat value was questionable. The car required driving close to the obstacle, stopping, raising the camera, aiming, and shooting. During this time, a regular tank would have already passed the obstacle and destroyed the target. 1944. The Allies prepare for the Normandy landings, and the British Army makes a decision. The Bogomol project is officially closed. Too many compromises, too few benefits. For Taper, it was the end of a dream. 7 years since the patent, 2 prototypes, countless hours of work. The idea from the trenches of World War I never materialized into a working weapon. The first prototype was scrapped. The second was given to the Tank Museum in Bovington, where it is still considered one of the strangest exhibits in the collection. The irony is that TAP's idea was right. The concept of elevating armament was later successfully used by other vehicles such as the FB-1620 Hammer Hornet, which carried anti-tank missiles but had no crew in the elevating part. TAP was right about the problem and the solution, but his implementation, placing people face down in a swinging box 3 meters in the air, was a disaster. If you enjoyed this story, give it a like. Let me know in the comments what other useless technology you'd like to hear about, and subscribe to stay up to date with new videos.